Okay, so ignore my fucking nose ring making me look like a crackhead. I am trying to gauge my septum, as you can see, and this is like the thickest part, and so I'm not quite there yet. I'm also wearing my headache hat. I'm not having a headache. It's just really nice when it's hot outside because this is cold as fuck, and it stays cold for a really long time because probably because I don't regulate my temperature very well. A nigga's cold blooded, and so I can sit with this and it'll stay cold probably a good hour and some change. If I'm inside, it'll be like 2 hours where like it's still cold, like cold enough to like be relieving. It won't be like frozen, but like it'll still be cold. It stays frozen for a really long time when I'm inside. But anyway, anyway, I am chilling for the most part. I shouldn't be. I absolutely should not be chilling because I got fucking aphids on me. Aphids. In this economy, because I should be getting ready to go to fucking Buffalo. Really not excited about that. I'm going to be gone from the 18th until the 28th, but that's beside the point. I should be getting ready. However, I have been on a stint of like going back and reading old posts because I actually have a fair amount of fan fiction, just fiction. I'm not particularly a fan of myself, but I have been known to write fanfics about myself. And it's a little cringe. It's a little fucking cringe. I might read one to y'all because like I have a tendency to, okay, so let me rewind, backpedal a little bit to give a crumb of context. I can't remember what the app was called. Like, well, one was called Profoundly, but this wasn't the one that I had used most recently, or maybe it was. I can't remember. Anyway, no, it was a Sarah something. Well, both of them I used, and I would get, just anonymous messages from people that are on my friends list, and for some of them, they like weren't really a question or anything that I could like respond to. They were just like, they just said like a phrase, and I was like, okay, how do I respond to this? And so I decided when someone sends me just like a phrase, I'll make it into a fic, and maybe like a few hundred words. It's not going to be like super duper long, but one of them I did make into like a pretty long fic. And it's kind of funny. You know how like there'll be fanfics that get really, really famous and then they'll turn it into a movie? That's similar to how like I operate. And so one of my fanfics, or one of my fics that I wrote, someone said, choke me please. Because, those are the kind of things that people say to me, which like I don't mind because it's like all in good fun. So this person had said, choke me please. And I don't know who it was. They never told me who it was. But I made a whole ass fic just from that phrase. And I made like, it's 3 parts. Well, it's actually 2 parts. And so I wrote that first part. And then decided I'm going to switch out I'm going to switch out myself and replace it with an idol. And so I replaced it with Wano because like, we're like this. And wild. I replaced myself with Wano. Like, that's fucking healthy. Like, it's perfectly fine. Not a fucking war crime. I did that. And I posted it on my K-pop group where I talk to all my friends and stuff. And people were like, oh, word. Are you gonna finish this? And I was like, you know what? I did end it on a cliffhanger. Perhaps I should look into that. And so I did. And so I made a part 2. And because, of course, I'm an inclusive motherfucker, Happy Pride Month, I made a bottom AMAB version and a bottom AFAB version and then a top AFAB version. And I said I was going to make a top AMAB version, but I didn't because that was like the point where I had like misplaced my executive function and a bitch never found it. But I'm trying to get back into writing fiction because I love writing it. And I'm telling you all this shit, and like, this is not even the point of what I wanted to tell y'all. So I'm going back and reading some of the old things that I wrote, and I'm like really enjoying it. I'm like, oh my God, who is this? Who wrote this? Who wrote this? Talent. I'm looking at this shit, and one of them I remember sending to Dig, and I'm a little weird with my art. I don't consider myself an artist, even though I know like what I do is make art. I have a hard time. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. I have a hard time. And so I sent it to Dig, and I don't know, I have a particularly bad relationship with him in sharing, just because he catastrophizes everything, and it makes it very difficult to want to share with him. And you don't really know which things are going to set him off. And so I was scared to share it with him, but it's something that like I put a lot of thought and energy and effort and love and care into. This is my my Bang Chan fic, because this is my floweriest fic. This is the fic I've spent the most time like looking up adjectives for words and shit. I went the fucking on these fucking on the imagery. It's not the most research I've done for a fic, but it is definitely the most retooling of phrases. I worked very, very hard, very diligently on how I structured my sentences in this fic. There's probably a lot of run-ons because I'm really bad with grammar, but the idea, the feel, it gets across. It gets fucking across. And I'm reading this trying to rizz myself up, but then I remember Dig has read this shit, and I'm like, oh my God, he read this shit. This is so fucking humiliating to read this shit and be like getting into it when this nigga has read it. That seems unhealthy. That seems like it's bad. That's a bad thing, right? Like, I don't feel like weirdly like I'm cheating. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like I'm being unfaithful or whatever. It feels like embarrassing. I feel ashamed to be like getting rizzed up by like my own supply, knowing that Dig also read it. And I know he didn't get fucking rizzed up by it, because like, why would he? And I don't know really how he feels about it, because like I sent it to him, and then I was like, oh, please don't read it, never mind, I want to unsend it, please don't read it. And he's like, I already read it, because he reads really, really fast. And I'm like, oh fuck, well, alright, and so I don't know how he really feels about like my fiction, because he talks about my writing, because I've sent him like a couple things. Like, he's read some of my poetry. He says that I'm what was the word he used? It wasn't like virulent. But it was like along those lines, where I'm like brutal. The way that my voice in my writing is punches hard, I guess. But I never really felt that way. I guess for a person that doesn't explicitly like to say things, it might be that way. But to me, I'm just saying shit. I could be fucking brutal. I could be fucking, I could go in like that, but I don't think I do when I write. But to Dig, I do. And so, I don't know how he feels about, especially like romantic shit that I write. Because I usually, like when I'm writing like fiction-y things, I do like quasi horror. Of course, that seems like a thing that I would do, right? I do things where I like to play with perception a lot, because I have a weird experience of perception, and I like to insert that into the things that I write, not just with like the kind of horror-y things, but also with the romantic things that I write. Just the weird parts of perception and how that can be related to horror, and the horror of that alone, and then how that will interplay with, okay, so like one of the things I wrote has like this demonic character, and it's honestly it's my fucking rapey uncle, but this character will communicate with you telepathically, and when he is trying to access your brain parts to talk to you, it'll make your ears pop. And so it's like stuff like that where like I like to kind of put things together that it makes sense in this world that I've created. And I think it makes sense within like just the context of like the regular world. Like that seems like a thing that might happen. But yeah, still trying to raise myself up. Probably gonna go back through and read maybe something that Dig hasn't read. I've only sent him 2 fics ever that I've written. My super flowery one, and then the first ever one that I wrote that I'm extremely proud of. I might go back and read that anyway because I love that fic so fucking much. I love it so much. I feel like I'd be really embarrassed to read y'all my fics. I feel like I'd be extremely embarrassed. I feel like it's cringe as fuck. Maybe I'll like make another channel just for that. Or maybe, I don't know. I feel fucking weird about it, y'all. And then also reading is, I'm not great with reading. I have a hard time processing words. But maybe doing it would help me to get better at it. But like, that's a thinker right there. I'll talk to y'all later.